All right, let's jump right into this explainer and completely dismantle a myth that is, quite frankly, holding so many of us back. For the longest time, we've been sold this idea that our intelligence, our natural talents, and our ultimate capacity for success are just predetermined. You get what you get, right? Well, today, we're going to look at the hard science and the behavioral psychology that proves that is entirely wrong. We're going to explore exactly how to change your mindset to be successful. So, I want you to ask yourself, are your abilities really set in stone? Think back to a time you faced a massive challenge and immediately told yourself, I'm just not wired for this, or I'm not smart enough. We want to challenge that thought right out of the gate, because that specific psychological trap is exactly what stands between you and your true potential.
Picture this. Two siblings inherit the exact same amount of money. Fast forward 10 years later, one has multiplied their wealth through smart investments, while the other has barely anything left. What in the world happened? Well, the first sibling operated from an abundance and growth mindset. They saw that money as seed capital, a world of endless possibilities for growth. But the second sibling? They operated from a scarcity and fixed mindset. They made decisions out of pure fear, just trying to protect what little they had rather than actually growing it.
And the data backing this up is just fascinating. A study out of Harvard Business School found that individuals who operate with an abundance mentality are actually 35% more likely to start successful ventures. They just don't view success as this zero-sum game where someone else's win automatically means their loss. They see opportunities as totally renewable resources. But hey, it's not just about professional success or making money. This deeply impacts your physical health too. People with an abundant, growth-oriented mindset experience 60% less chronic stress. Why? Because when you aren't terrified that every single failure is permanent, or that your resources are constantly about to run out, your body doesn't stay trapped in a constant state of fight or flight. Moving on to part 1, the science of neuroplasticity, the engine of change. We aren't just talking about thinking happy thoughts here. We are talking about actual, physical, structural rewiring. For the longest time, the scientific consensus was that your adult brain was basically a fixed, immutable computer. But neuroplasticity completely upends that old belief. It is the brain's literal capacity to adapt, change, and even generate brand new neurons throughout your entire life. Your mental machinery is highly, highly adaptable. There's this fascinating research out of Washington University that highlights this exact revolution in neuroscience, proving beyond a doubt that the adult brain is entirely dynamic. It completely overturns those old assumptions of immutability. But the absolute most exciting part of this research isn't just that the brain changes, it's that you and I can consciously participate in that change by cultivating specific mental states. To put into perspective just how sensitive your brain is to your thoughts, look at this famous study by Harvard neurophysiologist Alvaro Pascual-León. People were asked to simply think about playing the piano. That's it. They didn't even touch a keyboard. But the mental practice alone resulted in the exact same physical expansion of the brain's motor cortex as the people who actually practiced physically. Internal mental stimuli can literally rebuild your brain. No way, right? Which perfectly brings us to this profound quote from neuroscientist Richard Davidson. He conducted studies on Tibetan Buddhist monks and found that enduring happiness, compassion, and positive emotions are not just fixed personality traits you are randomly born with. They are actual skills. And just like playing the piano, if you practice them, your brain builds the physical circuitry to make those states your default.
Okay, part 2, the power of self-efficacy.
This concept is basically the bridge between knowing the brain can change and actually believing that you can be the one to change it. Introduced by psychologist Albert Bandura way back in 1977, self-efficacy is all about belief. It's your personal conviction that you have what it takes to execute the behaviors necessary to reach specific goals. People with high self-efficacy view complex challenges as puzzles to be mastered, not threats to run away from. So how on earth do we actually build that belief? Well, Bandura outlined 4 main sources. First, mastery through small wins. Second, modeling, which is seeing your peers succeed. Third, social persuasion, like direct encouragement. But the most powerful one might actually be physiological factors. Think about it. When you're about to give a huge presentation and you get those crazy butterflies in your stomach, a person with low self-efficacy interprets that as, oh no, I'm failing, I can't do this. But a person with high self-efficacy, they reframe that exact same physical sensation as excitement and readiness. It is all in the interpretation.
Now for part 3, the mechanics of transformation, taking action.
So, we understand the science and the belief system, but how do we actually apply this modern science to our daily routines to overcome the fixed mindset trap?
It all starts with catching yourself red-handed in scarcity thinking, using cognitive reframing techniques from cognitive behavioral therapy. You have to actively recognize your cognitive distortions, like when you automatically jump to the absolute worst-case scenario. You can use tools like thought records to write down those negative thoughts and challenge their validity. When you practice decatastrophizing, you are actively replacing that fixed mindset panic with empowering constructive interpretations.
Now, I know totally changing your mind can feel massively overwhelming. The crucial point here is not to try and change everything overnight. In his incredible book, Atomic Habits, James Clear introduces the 1% rule. If you can get just 1% better each day for one single year, the math shows you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. It's all about those small, sustainable shifts.
And to actually hit that 1% growth, we have got to stop obsessing over the finish line. Setting goals is strictly about the results you want, but building systems is about the daily processes that actually get you there. As James Clear brilliantly points out, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. You need to build a literal abundance engine right into your daily life. In that system, it's the habit loop: cue, craving, response, and reward. This is the neurological feedback loop that forms all of our behavior. By designing this loop intentionally, making the cue for a good habit obvious, the craving attractive, the response super easy, and the reward genuinely satisfying, we step by step build identity-based habits. You don't just achieve a success, you actually become a successful person.
Let's bring it all together in Part 4, Steps to a Growth Mindset.
Dr. Carol Dweck, the pioneer of this whole framework, gives us a super practical psychological toolkit for when we inevitably stumble on this journey. First, acknowledge your fixed mindset. It's not evil, it's just there to protect you from failure. Second, recognize what triggers it. Third, and this is a really fun one, name it. In one of our sources, Coach Ricky Goldenberg actually names her fixed mindset persona Esme. By giving it a literal name, you create psychological distance. Finally, partner with it. When Esme starts whispering, "You can't do this," you can just say, "Hey, thanks for the warning, Esme, but I'm going to try anyway, because I'm learning."
So, to wrap up everything we've covered in this explainer, learning how to change your mindset to be successful is absolutely not about some radical overnight magic trick. Every single action you take is simply a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Through the science of neuroplasticity, building your self-efficacy, and leveraging those small habit systems, you are literally voting your new brain into existence. Which leaves us with one final question to think about. The science is in, and it proves your brain is ready and waiting to be rewired for true abundance and success. So what small, 1% action will you take today to cast a vote for your new identity?